Canadian-American motivational public speaker and self-development author. He is the author of more than 1,000 audio and video learning programs that have been translated into dozens of languages. So to name some of his popular books, we can name Eat That Frog, which personally I fell in love with, Earn What You're Really Worth, and The Power of Self-Discipline, which kind of changed my life when I read this book. So everybody, please help me welcome Brian Tracy. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Amir. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to see you again, and I'm really looking forward to our time together.
Me too. Me and everybody from all around. Brian, we do have people from all around the world, from 176 countries. Right. We are so excited to share all these secrets with all of these people. And thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. And I am ready to go for as long as you like. I think we are scheduled to go to 12:30 our time, my time. But you tell me when to start and let me know when to stop, because I can speak for 5 days without repetition, as you know.
Right, right. Yes, Brian, you do have so many things to share with us, but I understand your time is limited. So please start right now. Everybody is just waiting for your speech. And right now I'm going to mute myself. So you have the stage for up to 1 hour.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my friends, and welcome. I want to make this, and Amir wants to make this, perhaps the most important day of your life. I don't know about you, but when I started off, I came from a poor family. We had no money. I did not graduate from high school, and all I could do was laboring jobs. My first major job was washing dishes in the back of a small hotel. And when I lost that job, I got a job washing cars in a car lot. And when I lost that job, I got a job washing floors with a janitorial service. And I just moved from place to place. I lived in my car. I slept in my car in the wintertime, and I slept on the ground next to my car in the summer. And I worked in factories, and I worked on farms. When I was 23 years old, I was an itinerant farm laborer. An itinerant farm laborer is someone who works during the harvest, and at the end of the harvest, your job is over. I slept in the farmer's barn on the farmer's hay. I ate meals with the farmer's family. We would get up by 5 a.m. in the morning and be out in the fields at the first light, and then we would work on the harvest all day long. And so I just kept working away, and then I reached the end of the road and there was no work for me. So I got a job in sales, and this really changed my life. I thought sales was quite simple. People said, well, all you have to do is tell people about your product or service and they will buy it and you will earn a lot of money. So I did, and I began knocking on doors. I was selling a small product, and I was quite astonished because everybody said the same thing. I don't want it, I don't need it, I can't afford it, I can't use it. I'm not in the market. It costs too much. I can get it cheaper from your competitor. Leave me some information. Call me back later. And all of these different things. Everybody I spoke to said the same thing. And then I realized that the words, let me think it over, mean goodbye forever. I will never see you again. I will never buy from you again. And so I realized after 6 months of struggling, and every so often, I would make a little sale. I lived in a little boarding house and I slept in a little bed, and I struggled. And then finally I began to ask the question, why is it that some people are more successful than others? Why is it that some people are more successful than others? Well, I looked around, and this changed my life actually. And there was one man in our office. We had about 22 salespeople, and I would start work at 6 or 7 in the morning. I would be knocking on doors by 8 a.m. I would work all day, and then I would go out and knock on the doors of homes and apartments until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And sometimes I would work all day and not make a single sale. I calculated that I made about 70 calls a day. I made more than 20,000 calls in my first year. and I got rejected almost 20,000 times. So anyway, I asked this man, his name was Pete, I still remember, I said, why are you so much more successful than me? He would come into the office at 9:30, he would make sales and then go for lunch with a customer, make more sales in the afternoon. He would quit work at 5:30 and he had a pocket full of money, nice car, nice apartment, and he was selling the same product at the same price to the same customers at the same competition as anybody else, but he was earning 10 times as much as anyone else. So I asked him, what are you doing differently from me? And he told me. I learned later, by the way, that the most successful people in any business are never asked for their secrets of success. They have to actually give courses or write books or something because nobody asks them. Well, I asked him and he said, well, show me your sales presentation and I'll critique it for you. And I said, well, I don't have a sales presentation. I had heard of such a thing as a sales presentation, like something that was on the other side of the moon, but I never seen one. I said, well, he said, what do you say when you speak to a prospect? Oh, I just tell them about my product and how it works and how they can use it and why it's a good deal. And no, he said, no, stop. He said, that's not how you sell. You sell by asking questions. You have to determine, is this a prospect or a suspect? So you ask them questions about what they're doing relative to our product. You ask them questions about their life and their plans and their work and so on. And you build a rapport and an understanding so that the prospect likes you and trusts you. And then you ask them questions about their needs with regard to your product and what do they need that your product can give to them. And I was astonished. I still remember to this day. So I wrote down everything he said to me. And this was about 11 a.m. in the morning. And I got up and I went out, and instead of talking, I asked questions. And that changed my life forever. Because instead of saying, I'm not interested, I don't want it, I can't afford it, when I asked people questions, they would answer the questions. And then I would follow up with more questions and more questions. And they would invite me in to sit down and we would talk. And I started to make more sales. And then something else happened to me. I went back to Pete and I said, Pete, what else can I do to make sales? He said, well, have you read any books on selling? And I said, are there books on selling? I had no idea that there were books on selling. He said, oh yeah, lots of people have written books on selling. So I went down to the bookstore and there was a complete section, a business section, with a part on selling. So I bought my first sales book and I still remember that to this day. It changed my life because it was a very simple, logical process of how to prospect, present, close, make sales, and get referrals and resales. That changed my life. I began to teach it. I began to write it. I began to read it. Today, I am the best-selling author in the world on personal and business success. I'm the best-selling author in the world on audio programs and books on selling. More people have become millionaires by following my ideas than any other single source in entrepreneurship or sales. That's not my own statistic. It's the statistic of researchers who've done follow-up. So the wonderful news is that you can increase your income much, much more. I ask people, I say, how many people here would like to double their income? And everybody raises their hand. I said, well, good, then I will show you how to double your income about 5 or 6 or 7 different ways in the course of our sales presentation. And so let us begin, and I'll give you some of these ideas later. And they'd all go, oh, boo. They wanted to hear now. So I would say, okay, well, let me give you one way to double your income that is absolutely guaranteed to work. And here it is. I'd say the average salesperson or entrepreneur talks to 2 new prospects or customers each day. That's the average going back to 1928, where they've done study after study after study. And so if you are the average, and remember, half are above and half are below, if you're average, if you want to double your income, then instead of speaking to 2 new people per day, speak to 4 new people per day. And by the law of averages, you will double your income. And people said, oh, that's too simple. That doesn't work in our market. And so on. I said, well, look, when you hear an idea, before you pass judgment on the idea, try it out. And so people would say, all right, I'll try it out. And they were astonished. I said, instead of going into the office and drinking coffee or tea or spending time talking to your friends or working on your computer or reading the newspaper, instead of doing all of that, just go out and get face to face with customers and see what happens. I call this FaceTime. Now today, because of the pandemic virus, we have online like today, or we have a telephone, or we have all kinds of different ways of communicating, but basically things will come back around as they are, and everything will come back down to personal, face-to-face, ear-to-ear, eye-to-eye contact, where you just talk to people. And your job in business is to be a helper. If whether or not you are the head of a huge business or you are starting off, your job is to help people to achieve their goals. Sometimes I will ask my audiences, and I've spoken now more than 5,000 times in 84 countries all over the world. I will ask them, how many people here work on straight commission? Straight commission. And maybe 10 or 15% of people will raise their hand because they don't like the idea of working on straight commission. I say, well, I must have not said it properly because obviously most people didn't understand. Let me ask the question again. How many people here work on straight commission? They get a commission from their sales. And then the hands would start to go up. The first time I did this was at an international conference of consultants in New York. We had more than 300 senior partners of one of the biggest consulting companies in the world. And I asked them this question, how many people here are in sales? And of course, accountants just hate the idea of selling, asking people to buy things. And so nobody raised their hand. But the senior executive who had brought me in, and I still remember him, wonderful man, he raised his hand. He said, I'm in sales. And then the person next to him looked at him and he realized they all became senior partners because they were able to sell customers into using the accounting firm and paying them sometimes hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a year. And so they said, well, yes, I'm in sales. If I can't persuade people to buy our services, then I will not be successful. And one by one, everybody started to raise their hands. We had 300 people and 300 people raised their hands. I'm in sales. We're all in sales. The only question is not whether you are in sales, but whether or not you are good at sales. And the wonderful thing that I learned is that sales, which is the business of influencing other people, sales and influence are learnable skills. If you can drive a car, if you can use a keyboard, if you can ride a bicycle, then you can learn how to be really excellent at persuading people to buy your product or services. And when I learned this, it changed my life. After struggling and struggling and struggling, in the next year, my income increased 10 times and then even more. Today, when I look back, if I could not even imagine earning that much or that little because of the skills that I've developed, and you can do the same thing. And Amir and I were talking about this, is that if you learn the skills of other successful people and practice them over and over, soon you will master those skills and you will be able to earn all the money you want. So we all work on straight commission. That means we all work by selling something to someone. We all work by persuading other people to purchase or use our products and services. And the closer you are to that purchase decision, the more money that you earn. Again, lots of studies find the most valuable people in every company are those people who have the greatest influence on income for the company, on revenue, on sales, and on profitability. So I want to share with you a couple of ideas that I have shared with thousands of companies I've worked with more than 1,000 large companies like IBM and Ford and General Motors. I've worked with more than 10,000 small and medium-sized companies that have smaller staffs. And I've worked all over the world. And the principles are the same. People say, well, that wouldn't work in my market, or that wouldn't work in. That's not true. It's the same as your physical structure. You have eyes and ears and blood and bones and things like that. They're all the same for everybody, everywhere, under all circumstances. I began studying economics some years ago, and I came across something, like I tripped over it, and I never forgot it. It said that all of human action is motivated by a desire to improve one's condition in some way. Is that the reason that we do anything is for improvement. So you and I are in the business of helping people to improve their lives and their work with our products or services. If you want to earn a lot of money, what you do is you stand back and you say, what improvement do people want in what they're doing today? What improvement do people want? And how can I give them that improvement faster and better than anyone else? One of my favorite stories is the richest man in the world today. According to Forbes magazine last week, it is Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, about 13, 14 years ago. And he is now worth more than $200 million. Wealthiest man in the world. Unbelievable. And why does he earn that money? Well, he was unhappy with his job, which was selling securities on the phone in New York. And he and his wife decided to move to Seattle and start over again. And on the way, he worked with his laptop computer, and he did research looking for a market opportunity. And the market opportunity was in books, because at that time we had big bookstores everywhere, and people who wanted to read, like I do, like you do, would go to a bookstore. I went to a bookstore, or more than one bookstore, every week. As soon as my children grew up, we all went to bookstores together. It was sort of like part of our lives. And we all bought books, and we brought them home and we read them. And so books were important to us. But most cases, if a book was popular and you went in to buy it, they would say, well, we are out of stock. So if you will fill out an order form and pay for it, then we will bring the book in and then call you, and you can come and pick it up. Now that sounds very difficult, but that was the way the world worked. If the bookstore did not have it, they would order it, and then you'd have to go back. So Jeff Bezos came up with this idea: what if people could buy a book online? This was just when the internet was going. They could buy the book online and pay for it, and they could get it in the mail in 5 to 7 days. So he spoke to publishers, and he spoke to book vendors and book salespeople and so on. And he set up a little network to supply the most popular books directly by mail to customers for the books. And people were not going to read the books as soon as they got home, so they were willing to wait for 5 to 7 days. This made him the richest person in the world. And so what he did is eventually, first of all, he would sell books through the booksellers, but that was too slow. So he started a warehouse, and he carried the most popular books. So if you ordered a book from Amazon, they would send it out almost immediately, and you would receive it in 5 to 7 days. Jeff Bezos was a fanatic on customer service, which you should be as well, because that's the key to becoming wealthy. That's all he thought about, was making his customers happy, serving his customers, giving his customers what they wanted. So he got his business going, and somebody came to him and said, could I sell my products through your platform? And he thought about it, and he said, sure, you could sell your products through my platform and pay me a commission. And so it would be win-win, no commission, no sale, no commission, and so on. So one person after another. Today, there are millions of companies that sell their products on Amazon. Today, you can purchase as many as 100 million different products from all over the world on Amazon with a click of your phone in 2 or 3 seconds. Jeff Bezos came up with this idea. He called it one-click selling, big lawsuit about that. People said you can't patent or copyright this. And what he did is he basically said that you should be able to get on and off and buy a product or service within 30 seconds. And so if you use Apple, if you use an iPhone, if you purchase through Amazon, you can actually pull up Amazon. You can then go bang, bang. You can pull up the product that you want, bang, bang, and then bang, and you're off in 30 seconds. And the product is delivered to you in 5 to 7 days. Then he began reinvesting the money to reduce from 5 to 7 days to 5 to 4 to 3 to 2. And today, most products that you buy from Amazon are delivered the same day or the next day. So the speed at which you get the product is unbelievable. And then in order to sweeten the pie is he offered a 30% discount. If you buy from Amazon, we will give you a discount of 30% over the retail price in the stores. And they're unconditionally guaranteed. If you're not happy, we'll give you your money back. And that has made him the richest man in the history of the world. Now today, all over the world, more and more people are focusing on that one idea of customer service. Serve your customers better and faster and cheaper than anyone else. And all you have to do is find one way to serve your customers better, and that is enough for you to start a fortune. It's enough for you to build a massive business. Many years ago, I grew up in Southern California, and I lived in Pomona, and Pomona was only about 40 miles from a city called San Bernardino. And San Bernardino had a little hamburger stand, and it was started by what are called the McDonald brothers. And one of them was an accountant, and he was very efficient, and the other one was a salesperson, and he was very exuberant and positive. And they set up this little hamburger stand where they would be able to sell and serve hamburgers in a few seconds. And people came from everywhere because the hamburgers were delicious, and they were fast, and they were fresh. And so they could go through the drive-in window, or they could walk up, or they could park, and people would come to their car. And this businessman named Ray Kroc lived in Chicago, and he sold milk machines, milkshake machines, where you put in the ingredients of a milkshake and you turn it on and goes, and then they serve it. Well, he found that he kept getting more and more orders from this little company in San Bernardino. This little company kept ordering more and more of these milkshake machines. So he did something which changed his life. Peter Drucker once said that wherever you see a great success, someone once took a big chance. Someone once gambled. Someone once took a risk. And what he did is he drove, because we didn't have planes or things like that at that time. The planes were very expensive. He drove his car, this was in the 50s, he drove his car from Chicago all the way to San Bernardino, 2,000 miles. And he went in and he talked to them and he asked them, why is it that you're buying so many of our milk bank machines? I'm very happy that you're buying them, but why? And he showed them they were using so many machines because they were selling so many milkshakes and hamburgers and French fries. And he said, this is a great idea. This is a system. For the first time, there was a system of producing hamburgers, milkshakes, and French fries. And so he said, if I could take this system, I could take and do this and create an identical company to yours in Illinois. What would you think about that? And they said, well, that's a good idea. How would it work? Well, we do 50-50. Is you own half the business and we own half the business. And they said, okay, but they have to call it McDonald's. McDonald's was the sticking point. So they said, okay, we'll call it McDonald's. And so he went back to Illinois and he started the first McDonald's outside of San Bernardino. After 2 or 3 years, the company started to grow, and the McDonald brothers were kind of overwhelmed by the fast growth. And they said, look, we just can't do this anymore. We want to sell the business to you. So he said, all right, I'll buy your share of the business. They said, but the minimum requirement is you must keep the name, the McDonald brothers, McDonald's. So he said, okay. And that was the start of the biggest fast food restaurant chain in the world. According to Wall Street Journal last week, there's more than 36,000 restaurants that are all over the world in every country. And they offer mostly the same foods, but different food. In France, there's French foods, and in Afghanistan, there's Afghani foods, and so on. The interesting thing was everything was focused on the customer, on giving the customer what the customer wanted faster and better than anybody else. Now, there's hundreds, thousands of restaurants that sell hamburgers or fast food, but there's only one McDonald's. And McDonald's is still, after a couple of problems, McDonald's is still the most profitable chain in the world for a whole lot of reasons. So your job, your goal is to look at the market and say, what is it that people want and need and are willing to pay for? And I could provide it to them faster, cheaper, better, easier than anybody else. And because human wants and human needs are unlimited, your potential to become wealthy is unlimited as well. In fact, the rule that Napoleon Hill came up with, he said that all fortunes start with the sale of personal services. All fortunes start with the sale of personal services. So just let's say that you don't have a lot of money to start off with, but you have yourself and you have your ability to sell your services and to serve other people and to give them things that they want and need and are willing to pay for. And your growth is only limited by your imagination. If you look at Amazon or Apple or any of these companies, they have hundreds, maybe even thousands of little businesses that grew up as ideas, like flowers. They grew up and they became profit sources, sales sources. And every single business success is based on you finding a way to serve other people in a way that they haven't been served before. So when we talk about business, we say that there are several factors that you need to look at. One is you look around and you ask yourself, what is it that people want and need and are willing to pay for that I can offer to them? And since human wants are unlimited, the ideas are unlimited as well. So I have been teaching now hundreds and hundreds of companies these ideas about business success. And so what I want to do is I want to share with you some of the foundations. And a foundation is sort of like a menu. If you have a menu, the menu gives you the ingredients in the proper proportions. And if you follow the menu from a cookbook or something else, you will get a reasonably good dish every time. Successful business people at all ages, even people who don't have degrees, are people who have a menu and they follow a system. And this system becomes better and better and enables them to produce and to sell more and more and better and better and more profitable. So if your goal is to become wealthy, to become a millionaire, which is a good goal, then what you need to do is you need to do what other millionaires do all over the world. And today there's about 50,000 self-made millionaires in the world. These are people who started with nothing, and today they're worth more than $1 million. I have spent years studying millionaires and billionaires. And one of the things that I found is that if you do what millionaires and billionaires do over and over, then soon you will become a millionaire and maybe even a billionaire as well. Just like Jeff Bezos, $200 billion. That's pretty good, pretty good. So your job and my job is to find a need and fill it. So let me give you some basics that I have taught to thousands of people all over the world. And this starts off with what I call wealth creation strategies, is that your job in business is to create wealth and you get a percentage of the wealth. So in other words, if you create wealth, what you do is you get a slice of it, you get a piece of it. And the more wealth that you create, the more that you get. So you may have a big business but it generates an enormous amount of profit, and you just take a little piece of it. And that little piece is enough to make you rich and live in a big house and drive a beautiful car and put your children into private schools. So your job is to create wealth. Now, what is wealth? Wealth is a value. It's something that people want and need and are willing to pay for. For example, using Jeff Bezos, fast food or fast service, is you can buy anything you want in through Amazon, any product at all, and will be delivered to you very quickly, 24 hours or 48 hours. And that's phenomenal because customers love speed. And I'll come back to this in a minute, but all you have to do is find one way to serve people better than anyone else is serving them at this moment, and that's enough for you to start a fortune. When we interview customers and we ask them why they bought a product or service, they will say because of this and because of that. And so then we ask this question: what was the one reason why you bought my product or service rather than someone else's? What was the one reason? What was the main reason? And it's interesting, they call this single attribute theory. It means that there's always one major reason why people buy a product or service. And your job is to find out what that reason is for most customers and then deliver it to them. Give them what they want and then give it to them even better and better. When Jeff Bezos got started with Amazon, the company started to grow. His financial advisor said, well, you got to pay, you have to pay dividends. You have to pay out bonuses and amounts to your investors. And he refused to pay anything to investors. They said, but if you want to raise more money and you've got to have more investors. He said, no. He said, we will take 100% of our profits and invest them back into making Amazon even better. And that's what he did. And to this day, they don't pay anything to anybody. They just reinvest the money in improving their services to their customers. Last year, their sales went up by something like 40%. 40%. And the year before, 30%. And Jeff Bezos just became richer and richer and richer because his whole focus is on making his customers happy. There is a good businessman named Tony Hsieh who started a company called it's not Zoom, it's called Zappos. And what he did is he came up with this idea of selling shoes online. And what he found was that men would buy shoes online, but women like to test shoes before they bought them. And he was having a very hard time building his business. So he came up with this double refund idea. If you bought a shoe or shoes from me and you didn't like them, you could send them back. We would pay for the shipping costs to your home and we would pay for the shipping costs back to our factory. So you had zero risk. With women, they could actually buy 2 or 3 different types of shoes and they would all be sent out the next morning. Anytime you bought something from Zappos, you get it within 24 hours. The joke was that you could place the order online and you'd have to get up and run to the door because the order would be at the door. Their customer service was so fast. And with women would buy 2 or 3 or 4, sometimes 5 different shoes, and they would try them on and they would send back the ones they didn't like. And they simply set up their cost structure so that it included the ability to do that. And Zappos became a $1.3 billion company. It became the most successful online shoe company. And then Amazon stepped in and bought the company and paid Tony Hsieh about a $300 million personal bonus for setting up the company. And Tony still runs the company in Las Vegas. And it's one of the companies that's owned by Amazon that serves people with what they want faster than anybody else. And that's your job as well. So let me give you some ideas with regard to wealth creation, because I can promise you that with regard to myself, these strategies work. I've gone from living in a small apartment to a big house on a golf course in Southern California. And all my children have graduated from universities and we have a wonderful life. And it all comes from practicing these principles, because these principles work. They're sort of like gravity. You know, if you drop something, it falls down. It never falls up and it never falls sideways. If you practice business principles, you earn profits. And if you're not earning the kind of profits that you want, what you have to do is you have to step back and look at what you're doing and make sure that you're doing all the things necessary to run a successful business. Now, here's an interesting discovery. It's like a recipe in the kitchen. I do a little bit of cooking, but what I found is that if you want the dish to taste delicious, you must follow the recipe exactly. If you change the recipe, if you put too much or too little of the ingredients in the recipe, or sometimes you don't put in the right ingredients at all, the dish will taste terrible. It will fail. You'll have to throw it away. And it's amazing how many people, entrepreneurs starting businesses, think that they can take a shortcut, is that they can not necessarily do this or spend money on that. And what happens is that the customer always knows. The customer always knows if you have done everything right to satisfy the customer. Each one of us is in the business of customer satisfaction. We're in the business of making people happy. So Tony Hsieh, he wrote a book, and the book was called Delivering Happiness. Delivering Happiness. He said, we sell happiness. We're in the happiness business. We just happen to use shoes to create happiness. So he always thought about delivering happiness. Your job is the same thing, is to make customers happy. You see, and I'll come to this in a second, I often ask my sales audiences, and I've trained more than 2 million salespeople all over the world. I'll say, what is the most important sale that you make? What is the most important sale that you make? And most people will say, the first sale, the first sale, the first sale. And I say, no, it's the second sale and the third sale. You see, you can get the first sale with bonuses, with discounts, with special prizes, with deception. You can get the first sale many different ways. But the second sale is where the customer tells you that you delivered on your promises. You said if I bought your product or service, I would be happy. And I bought your product or service, and I'm so happy, I'm going to buy it again and again and again. So it's really important that the second sale, your job is not just to make a sale, but to make the second sale and the third sale, is to make your customers so happy that they buy from you again and again, and then they bring their friends to buy from you as well. This is the essence of successful marketing. Let me give you an example. If you ask people what is the best iPhone in the world, they'd say it's the Apple. So the success of Apple is, of course, of selling lots of phones. So what they did is they did a study and they asked how many people have purchased Apple phones. And today the number is very close to 3 billion. And then they asked these people, based on your experience with Apple and with our phones and our services, how many of you are going to buy again? And it turned out that 90% of people who have bought Apple phones are going to buy Apple phones again in the future. Apple is the first company to put $1 trillion in profits in the bank. This year, they put in $2 trillion, which makes them the most prosperous and richest company in the history of the world. And 90% of their customers are so happy they're going to buy again and again. And so Apple will continue to be the most, or one of the most profitable companies in the history of the world. Same as Jeff Bezos and Amazon. They continue to focus on making their customers happy, and their customers keep coming back. And many, many companies have tried to compete with Amazon, but no company gives as much customer satisfaction as Amazon does. And this is your job as well. I say the key to success is to learn from the experts. Learn from the experts. You will never live long enough to figure it all out for yourself. So find out what the experts are doing. Find out what the most successful people are doing, and then do the same thing until you get the same results. So wealth creation strategies, I will give you just a big blurb, but it says wealth creation occurs when you produce a product or service that people want and need and are willing to pay for at a price that is in excess of your total cost of producing, selling, delivery, and servicing that product or service. That's the wealth creation strategy. In other words, you produce and deliver a product at a price that is lower than what people are willing to pay. That's the essence of entrepreneurship. That's the essence of new business formation. Is be very clear that you are including every single cost of doing business in your formulation. One of the big mistakes that small business people make is they don't include their own labor as part of the cost of producing and selling the product or service. They start the business themselves, and at the end of the day or the week or the month, they look at how much money they have and they say, I made a profit. But you didn't make a profit if you include your own work, your own labor at what you would earn if you went to work for someone else. So always include your own personal labor or services as one of the costs of producing your business. So what is it that people buy? People buy improvement. They will buy from anyone who will help them to improve their quality of life or work at a price that is it is much less than the value that they place on it. So here we call wealth creation strategies. Number one is find a need and fill it. Ask yourself, what is it that people want and need that nobody is providing to them? Whether it's Apple or Amazon or any other company, your job is to identify an existing need that people have that nobody has thought of satisfying. Even if it's making hamburgers fast, fresh, delicious, so that people can get in and out quickly. That's enough to create 36,000 restaurant chain worldwide. So number two, find a way to serve other people in some way. See yourself as in the business of serving others. How can you serve other people in some way? And the third wealth creation strategy is find out what people really want and then give it to them quickly and well. Find out what people really want. When people make mistakes in businesses, how do they make mistakes in businesses? Number one, unfortunately, they produce a product or service that they think is a good idea, but nobody else does. So here are 7 basics for business success. These are the 7 requirements to build a high profit business in any market. And these are the foundations. If you are wrong in any one of these 7 key factors, that is enough for your business to fail. If you are right in all 7 factors, then if you have one more that customers really want and need and appreciate your product, that's enough for you to build a fortune. And that's your goal, is to build a fortune. I have a friend who died recently, and he started off many years ago with a used furniture store. And what he bought was a little store that we rented actually. And then he bought used furniture, and he would put the used furniture out on the sidewalk in front of his store. And he would never go home until he had sold one piece of furniture. And so that's basically what happened. Sometimes he would be sitting there till 9 or 10 o'clock at night, waiting until somebody came by and bought a chair or a table or a lamp or something else. Today, or when he died, he had 42 of the biggest and best high quality furniture stores in the state. He was worth more than $1 billion. He was one of the most highly respected business people in the world. I worked with him as a personal business coach for several years, and his story is absolutely amazing. But he said he would not ever go home at night until he had made a sale. And that was that continuous focus on making customers happy. And as his company grew and grew and grew, his whole focus was on customer satisfaction, making your customers happy. So there's 7 basics for business success. Number 1 is an excellent quality product or service. 90 to 95% of business success is determined by the quality of the product that you sell. It's quality. Customers always gravitate like a magnet. They always move toward quality. They'll pay more for quality. They'll pay higher prices for quality. They'll wait longer for quality. You know, when I was starting off and struggling, I had an inexpensive Timex watch, and my fantasy was to have a Rolex watch. My fantasy was to have a Rolex watch. And my fantasy was for Barbara, my wife, to have a Rolex watch as well. And what we did is we worked and worked and worked, and we built our business. And then we took a trip to Europe, and we took a train down through Switzerland to the city of Lucerne. And Lucerne is where the headquarters of Rolex exists. And we went down there, and we went to the head office of Rolex, the big store, and we each bought Rolex watches. And Rolex means success. If you have a Rolex watch, it's the same as saying, I'm a successful person. Because why? I wear a Rolex. And a Rolex watch costs a lot of money. And Rolex has designed their marketing so that the price of a Rolex watch increases each year. So this watch, I paid $10,000 or $11,000 for this watch many years ago. I went into a jewelry store recently. I said, how much is this watch worth today? He said about $29,000, because every year they increase the price of the watch by about 2%. Now, it's not a lot, but it means that once you buy a Rolex, it will never decline in value. And so who buys Rolexes? People for whom this is an important principle. I cannot tell you how many times I go through security at the airport and people look at my watch and they say, wow, that's a beautiful watch. That's a beautiful watch. Yes, beautiful watch. So number one is an excellent product or service. An excellent product is 90% of business success. They did a study recently and they asked business owners like yourself, if you had a large amount of money that you could invest to increase your sales and profitability, how would you invest the money? And they came back and said 90% of them said, I would invest it in increasing the quality of my product. I would invest it in increasing the quality of my product based on what my customers say. What do my customers want? They want it faster, better, cheaper, easier, and so on. But I would spend 90% or more increasing the quality as my customers tell me. So an excellent product is 90% of business success. That means your product must be something that people want and need and can use and will pay for. When people see something they want, the price is not important. People often say, well, your price is your most important factor. Well, our studies show that if of 7 different reasons why people buy a product, price is always the last reason. The price is always the last reason. It's always quality and adaptability and attractiveness and everything else. So the product must solve a problem or fulfill a need or achieve a goal. Every product is a solution to a problem. So what is the problem that people have that your product or service can help them to solve? That's the key. If you can find a problem that a lot of people have, you can create your own business. You can create an empire. You can become wealthy by delivering books quickly and dependably to the person's home within a few days. And that can make you, in this case, the richest man in the world. So the second basic for business success is you have to have top leadership and good management. The owner of the business has to have a clear vision and a plan for business success. The owner of the business has to be continually focusing on designing and structuring the business so that it delivers to customers what they want. Leaders have a vision of the future. Leaders accept responsibility for success, and leaders motivate and inspire others. So your job is to be a leader. You're the one who accepts responsibility and you're in charge. Number 3, you need an excellent business plan. And when I began doing strategic planning for companies, I was astonished to realize that most companies don't have a business plan. And a business plan is sort of like a blueprint to build a home or furniture. It's like a design for anything. You have to have a blueprint for your business. And so a business plan means that you need a complete market analysis before you begin. Never rely on your own thinking. Ask yourself, how can I be sure that there is a demand for this product? Then you need to calculate accurate costs and prices. How much is it going to cost me to produce this product and deliver it to my customers? And then number three, you need to organize the money and the people and the resources necessary to build your business. And accuracy is absolutely essential. Take the time, think it through. Never assume anything. Always check and double check. And I can tell you, I have worked for hundreds and hundreds of companies. The biggest mistakes that they have made, the biggest mistakes that I have made is taking action without getting enough information. So ask a lot of questions. Do your research. Remember the Einstein story about if I had 1 hour to solve a problem that was going to destroy the world, they asked him, how much time would you spend in your investigation process? He said he would spend 90% of the time he had studying the problem so that he understood it completely, and only 10% taking action. Your job is to spend 90% of your time studying your business so that you understand it better than anyone else. Many years ago, I worked for the big boss, and the big boss was a wonderful man, and he hired me as his assistant, and then he gave me business projects to work on because I was very good and hard and fast working. And I learned so much from him. But one of the things I learned is how careful he was in checking every detail before he made a decision that you couldn't go back on. Remember, there are some decisions that you can make and you can go back on them. There's other decisions you can make and you cannot go back. So before, if it's a big decision, if it's an important decision, step back and take the time to think before you commit. Now, the fourth key to business success is an excellent marketing plan. And these are not things that are applicable to General Motors and IBM and so on. They're applicable to you. A marketing plan is a way to identify your ideal customers. Who are the customers who can and will buy from you if you bring your product to market? And then you need to demonstrate to your customers why they should buy from you. And then finally, you need to aggressively attract qualified prospects to your business. So the question sometimes that I ask is, what is the difference between marketing and selling? Well, marketing is all the things that you do to attract potential customers. Selling is what you do to persuade those potential customers to buy from you rather than from someone else. So marketing is the heartbeat of business. Marketing is everything. We say no matter what business you're in the marketing business. So your job is to keep thinking, what do I have to do to attract more and better potential customers? And good business people think about their customers and the market all the time. They think about it from the time they get up in the morning, and they think all day long. And all they think about is attracting potential customers. What do you have to do to attract more and more potential customers? Now, the fifth basic for business success is, let me get this right down here. The fifth business is an excellent sales plan. And it's quite amazing. People don't realize that the very best companies, and I've worked with many of the biggest companies in the world, they will go along at an average level for many months, maybe even many years. But at a certain point, they have to stop and develop a complete professional business sales plan. And all successful businesses have a very good sales program, and everybody is trained to sell this product to their customers. And this is something that you have to do as well. You need to persuade people to buy your product. It's quite astonishing when you start off in business how hard it is to get people to buy your product for the first time. You think it's a good idea, your friends and relatives think it's a good idea, but it's amazing how hard it is to persuade customers to buy from you rather than to continue doing what they're already doing. So you need to sell against determined competition. One of the great rules is that there are three factors that determine your success in business, and they are competition and competition and competition. Is everything that you do is determined by watching your competition. If you do something, what will they do in response? If you take this action, what action will they take? And so you need to close sales and get referrals. So this is the great essence of business success, is constantly be improving your ability to sell and close the sale and get the business. If you can do this, you can dominate the world. If you can't do this, you will always have to work for someone else. So number 6 is you need an excellent customer service plan. We say you need to make customers happy that they bought from you and your company. You need to make them happy. So one of the questions that I ask, I say, when you make a sale, what do you do then? What is your plan? What is your idea after you have a customer? And you have to have a customer service plan so that you know exactly once they buy, then what happens? And then what happens? And then what happens? And everything is follow-up, because the key to success, as we said, is repeat business. People are so happy with you that they buy from you again and again, and they tell their friends and they bring their friends. One of the keys to business success is to make your happy customers your top salespeople. Your happy customers are so happy that they bring other people to you over and over again. So you need to satisfy your customers better than your competition. You need to satisfy your customers, and then you need to generate referrals and resales from happy customers. And you have to have a plan for this that everybody plans. There's a factor that we could spend half an hour on, but it's basically, it's called the economic denominator. And what it says is that there are 5 or 6 numbers in every business that determine its success or failure. But there's always one number that's more important than anything else. Every company has a single number that predicts success more than any other single number. And so what is yours? Now, many people say, well, it's sales. Sales is our most important number. I say, well, what if you are poorly organized and you lose money on each sale? Then the more sales you make, the faster you would go bankrupt. So then they say, well, you're right. It's not sales, it's profit per sale. Okay, it's profit per sale. Well, how much can you spend in order to get a single sale? How many people do you need? How many facilities and so on? And we've worked out that there's about 35 different numbers that you can be concerned about. For example, one of our clients said that the number one number in their business is referrals. Is how many referrals do they get from each happy customer? And everybody in the company thinks about referrals all the time. They talk to their customers, they phone their customers, they email their customers. They think about making their customers so happy that their customers give them a river of referrals. And at a certain point, they reach the point where they never had to sell or market again, because so many customers were coming from referral because they were so happy. That is one of the best numbers that you could focus on. And every day, every hour, they ask how many new referrals did we get today. Each person is evaluated and paid and bonused by how many new referrals they got from their happy customers. What is your number? What's the most important number in your business? The one number that more predicts success than any other. And now the 7th requirement for business success, our last friend, it's called an excellent people plan. This is where you have to learn how to hire the best people. Remember, in business, 95% is having good people. And the most important people are the people who talk to your customers face to face, ear to ear, email to email. And so if you have really good people who take really good care of your customers, then you're going to have a very profitable business. One of the things that I encourage my business owners is to ask this question: is there anything that you're doing today that, knowing what you now know, based on your experience, that you would not do again today? And especially with regard to people, is there anyone that you have hired who works for you that, knowing what you now know, you would not hire this person again? And if the answer is no, then the next question is, how do you fire this person and how fast? Because the 95% of people's decisions is emotional. And emotional means the contact that they have with the person who sells and delivers the product. If you have people who are really nice people, who make people happy, those people will encourage referrals and multiple sales over and over and over again. So stand back and look at your business and say, who are the most important people in my business to generate sales? And how can you manage and motivate your people so that they are determined to make your customers happy? And then finally, you must learn how to build high performance teams. And I do complete half-day seminars on team building. But your job as the owner is to make sure that everybody works together like a team to make customers happy, to satisfy customers, to serve customers, to deliver your products and services to customers, to earn profits. Everybody has to be thinking about it all the time. And what more and more companies do is they are very adamant about meeting and talking with their staff all the time about increasing customer satisfaction. Well, we're getting close on time. I want to leave you with 8 ways to create additional value in your business. These 8 ways have come from years and years and years of research and experience. Number 1 way to increase value, to create additional value, is to improve the quality of your product or service, but at the same price. So how could you improve your quality without raising the price? This is incredible. This can change your business forever. This can make you a market leader. Always be thinking of quality improvement, quality addition, making it more successful. Really important. There is a very important part of customer service called the Net Promoter Score. And what it says is that if you ask customers, we call this the ultimate question, the most important question you can ask a customer is this: on a scale of 1 to 10, what kind of a grade would you give us in the way that we have treated you in buying our product or service? What kind of a grade would you give us on a scale of 1 to 10? And you'll find, and they find worldwide, is that people will give you a grade of 9 or 10 if they're very happy. They'll give you a grade of 7 or 8 if they're satisfied, and they'll give you a grade of 1 to 6 if they're not happy and they're planning to go somewhere else. So you always ask the ultimate question. Based on your experience with us, on a scale of 1 to 10, what grade would you give us? And if they give you any number other than 9 or 10, like they give you a 6 or 7 or 8, then you ask them, what would we have to do to get a grade of 10 from you next time? What would we have to do to get a grade of 10? And the most amazing thing they discovered is that your customers will tell you. They'll say, well, if you just did this, or you just did that, or you did more of this or less of that, then I would give you a 10. And then what you do is you do exactly what they told you to do. And then you go back and you tell them, we did exactly what you said, and here it is. And what they found is that the customer service rating will go to 10. They will become loyal customers for you for the rest of your business. It's the most amazing thing. The ultimate question, on a scale of 1 to 10, based on your experience with us, what kind of a grade would you give us? And then what would we have to do to get a 10? And your job is to get 10s all the time. So in other words, your customers, by the way, will tell you how to become rich. Your customers will tell you how to be successful. Number 2, produce and deliver your product and service faster than your competitors. Human beings today have what they call a need for speed. Human beings, customers love things fast. And you can see the McDonald's and the Amazons and so on. The most successful businesses in the world are the ones that are fast. They deliver their products and services quickly. So how could you increase the speed at which you service your customers? Number 3 is produce your product or service cheaper. One of the reasons why many companies manufacture their products and services in Asia or in Latin America is because they can get the same quality standards at a lower price. And what they do is they give the product to their customers at the lower price. so the customers benefit and the company benefits. How could you produce your product or service at a lower price with the same level of quality? Offer better follow-up and support services. How could you support your customers and make your customers happy or happier after they buy from you? And sometimes it's something very, very simple. I worked with many companies that sell expensive products and services. And after the sale was made from the salesperson, the president of the company would call up or have the secretary call up and say, the president of the company would like to talk to you, to the customer. And the customer would be impressed. And the president would come on and say, I just wanted to personally thank you for buying our product. And I wanted to assure you that we will do everything possible to make you happy. And I want to give you my personal phone number so that if ever anything happens and you can't get satisfaction through the company, phone me personally and I'll take care of it. Because we want you to be our customer now and for the rest of the time that you use this product or service. And people would say, wow, so thank you very much. Please call me if I can be of any service to you. And customers would be so happy that the top person, the big boss in the company, phoned them personally to thank them for buying the product. Now, here's an interesting rebuttal. People say, well, you can't do that because then the president will get phone calls all day long. But what we've discovered is that that's not true. 99% of the time, nobody will ever call the president. Nobody will ever call the big boss. 99%. And if they do call, it's a very good idea that they called because they had either a big problem that could have cost the company the sale, or they had a big referral. And one of their friends wants to buy the same product or service as well, and they want to talk to the big boss. The person says, well, I know the president personally. I'll call him personally and have him take care of you. Wow. Wow. That's a great way of building public relations. So give guarantees and warranties of satisfaction. Remember, the biggest single problem that people have in business is the perception of risk. And we've done 22 years and 55,000 customers interviewed and videotaped and so on. What we found is the number one factor that people think about before they buy is risk. And your job is to lower the perception of risk so that people feel they can buy your product or service with no risk, that no matter what happens, they will be guaranteed 100% satisfaction. And so that's really important. It's called risk reversal or risk reduction, to give guarantees and to give warranties and do everything so that your customer feels that they can buy from you confidently and never make a mistake, never risk, never worry about it. Number 6, make your product easier to acquire. Remember, people love easy. So make it easier for your customers to get your product. Get it to them quickly, deliver it to them quickly. It's the most amazing darn thing. Today in America and in Europe, we have the companies that deliver food to the door. 5 years ago, this industry did not exist. Today, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So you, my family, what we do is we can pick up or go online to virtually any restaurant within 25 miles, and we can pull up the menu. We can order off the menu and punch the button, and it goes immediately to a company that picks up the food from the restaurant and delivers it to us in about 30 minutes. So more and more people now, billions and billions of dollars each year, especially with the virus, more and more people are buying their products and services with their iPhone. And the companies are actually closing down the restaurant, and all they have is the delivery. So what happens is the delivery companies, there's a company called Urban Eats, there's another company called Uber Eats, there's a whole series of companies, and you call them up and they deliver the food in 30 to 60 minutes. And it's all done exactly the way you would have gotten it in the restaurant. This company, making it so easy for people to buy their meals, is absolutely phenomenal. And these companies are earning hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. So what ideas do you have? Number 7, make your prices and terms more attractive. In other words, make smaller down payments, make longer more extended payments. Make it easier for people to pay for your product or service. Of course, you make sure that they have proper credit and that they will pay, but make it easier financially. It's interesting, many, many years ago in the world of retail, is if you wanted to buy any product, even a car, you had to pay 100% cash for the car, 100% cash for the house, 100% cash for clothes or gardening equipment. There was no credit. And Sears came up with this idea of an extended payment plan where you could make a small down payment as long as you had good credit, and then you could pay over time the whole price. And they increased the size of the consumer market by hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. You don't remember those days, but at one time you had to pay cash for everything. And then somebody came up with this idea, is if it's a good person, they can pay it off over time. What could you do to make it easier for your customers to buy from you who don't have all the cash that they need at this moment? What could you do to get them to buy? And then finally, a way that you can create additional value is add additional products and services to each sale that you make. So a person buys something from you and you add something else that's no charge. You give them something else, you put something else in the order so that people are surprised. They go, wow, they didn't expect that. I mean, that's really great. And they feel happy about you, and they feel happy about buying from you, and they tell their friends and their relatives, and their friends and relatives, they want to be happy as well. The number one driving force of all human behavior is to be happy or to be happier. And your job in business is to make your customers happier than anybody else. So that's my bottom line. The opportunities that are available to you are limited only by your own imagination. Your job is to find a need that people have and fill it. Your job is to take care of your customers better than anyone else. Your job is to serve people so much that they buy from you again and again, and they bring their friends who buy from you again and again. And if you do that, you are going to become a self-made millionaire in your business. And I hope you do. Thank you, Amir. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Brian, for the amazing speech. Actually, I was super busy taking notes because that's how I learn. When I take notes and you speak, that's how I learn. And
Yes.
so basically, if I want to summarize what Brian mentioned, you need to find the need, especially in Corona time. There are so many new needs that people have. So find those needs, fulfill those needs, and make sure you deliver your best and follow up with the customers and deliver the best customer service. But I hope all of you guys was taking notes because there was too much tips and tricks that you have to keep going over and over again to master.
Yes.
So Brian, I would like to thank you so much for bringing all these insightful ideas to the table and sharing these secrets that you learned all around these years and became a millionaire yourself. With that Rolex on your hand, I would like to congratulate you that you found these throughout these years and now you're sharing it with us.
Well, thank you, Amir. It's such a pleasure to work with you. And also, want to just say something to my dear friends in Iran and Tehran. I've traveled all over Iran, all over the country, and I have so many friends in Iran, and I'm so happy to have them watching us today on this broadcast.
Thank you so much. Iranian loves you as well. You are in our heart.
Thank you. And they're in my heart as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Yes, we will.
Take care. Bye-bye, Brian.
Good.